All right, we are
Here we go,
ready.
now we're ready.
Okay, good evening and welcome to the Historic Review Board for Tuesday, March 31st. We will call the meeting to order now and ask for a roll call.
Board Member Edgar?
Here.
Board Member Green?
Here.
Board Member Lawrence?
Here.
Board Member Fulkerson?
Here.
Chair Powell?
Here. All right, thank you. Approval of minutes. Do we have minutes? I didn't see.
Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right,
sorry.
so we'll pass that up and go to our public hearing, which is HR 25-00017, alterations to the R.S. Beattie House at 103 Jersey Avenue. This public hearing is on the land use application. Our role is to conduct the public hearing and to make decisions about the matter before us. In making those decisions, we must apply the applicable codes and laws and cannot vary from change those laws or codes. Members of the Historic Review Board are to be unbiased. Before the start of the hearing, I'll ask the Historic Review Board whether they have any, or at the end of the hearing, if you have any potential conflicts such as family, financial, or business relationships with any of the applicants or with regard to the land in question. I'll also ask whether any of the Historic Review Board have discussed the application in question with any of the parties or have independent knowledge or relevant facts, such as from a visit to the site in question. Any member of the audience may question any HRB member about their disclosures. A staff report has been prepared for each application and has been made available to the public 7 days before the first public hearing. The staff report identifies the approval criteria that apply to each applicant's proposal. Staff has analyzed the criteria which are contained in the staff report. The quasi-judicial hearing procedure that the Historic Review Board will follow is set out in state law and the Oregon Municipal Code, the Oregon City Municipal Code. The hearing procedure steps are shown on the HRB website. Public testimony will be called in the order it was requested in advance of the meeting. If you have not emailed city staff at planning@orcity.org to request to speak and would like to testify, please raise your hand, virtual or physical, when I ask if there are any others in the audience who would like to participate. For the public record, please begin all testimony stating your name and city of residence. If you'd like to receive a copy of the notice of decision, please state your mailing address or email address. Testimony and evidence should be directed toward the applicable approval criteria. If you believe other criteria apply in addition to those addressed in the staff report, identify and discuss those criteria and explain how and why you believe they apply to the application under consideration. Any person may submit written material while the public record is open on each application. Any written materials received by the city staff during the time period in which the record is open will be placed in the record. Written materials submitted during the public hearing must be presented to the city staff in order to become part of the record. If a person intends for a PowerPoint presentation, a report, picture, or other exhibits to be used in their oral testimony to be placed in the record, copies must be submitted to the city staff while the record is open. If they are not given to staff, they will not be included in the record. Any person wishing a continuance to present additional evidence and testimony or to keep the record open to respond to new evidence must make that request before the public testimony portion of the hearing is closed. If the HRB makes a decision with which you disagree, any issue that you may wish to appeal must have been raised on the record for the consideration of the City Commission or LUBA or both. Without raising the issue on the record with sufficient detail and accompanied by statements or evidence that the city and all parties can respond to, the issue will not be deemed appealable to the City Commission or the State Land Use Board of Appeals. In addition, the failure of an applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposal conditions of approval with sufficient detail to allow the local government or its designee to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Now I'll ask each of you if you have any conflict of interest, ex parte contact, or if you visited the site, and we'll start with you.
I have had no conflicts of interest I have not gone to the site, but and I don't know anybody with it.
Okay. Ms. Green.
Okay, I visited the site, no ex parte contact, no conflict of interest. I have potential bias to disclose. I had the same decision to make, and I chose the Hardy Artisan Siding, so I just want to disclose that.
Okay. And you, sir?
I have been by the site. I have no ex parte contact, and I have no conflict of interest, other than I'll say the same thing, that I've been posed with the same situation and also recommend the party, so it's
Okay.
preemptive.
Julia?
I have not visited the site. I have no conflict of interest or ex parte contact.
Okay, and I have no ex parte contact or conflict of interest, and I have in fact visited the site. So at that point, there's no one to question the folks up here that have any concerns, but if there are, I'm sure we can get those to the staff if there are questions about any of the things we heard up here. So now the staff report.
Chair Powell and board members, as you know, I'm Jude today as planner with the Oregon City Community Development Department, and I'm presenting to you the staff report and recommended conditions of approval for HR 25-00017, which is the alterations to the R.S. Beattie House at 103 Jersey Avenue. So I will try not to do that too many times. All right. So as of noon today, actually as of now today, no public comments have been received regarding this project. The applicant, however, has submitted a letter to the Historic Review Board discussing her project, which is included in the agenda packet for this hearing. So that's in the record there, available to all of you. Let's see here. So in summary, we have a circumstance where the existing siding on the R.S. Beattie House is 3/4 inch thick wooden shiplap siding with about a 6.5 inch reveal and a 1 inch channel that is deteriorating and covered in lead paint. The applicant is seeking approval to replace this existing siding with hardy fiber cement board. Is trying to find the closest approximations in terms of reveal and channel pattern, that sort of thing, but at an affordable cost given their circumstances. HRB Policy 3, the whole reason we're here, requires board review if they're not replacing like for like, basically. And so because the applicant is proposing a different material and because that material is available in different styles other than the existing, we're coming before you here. The deterioration the applicant reports has advanced to the point where paint is peeling, lead paint has been detected, and replacement has been required. The applicant says that they've been unable to find wood siding that can replace the existing siding like for like at a cost that they can afford due to their medical circumstances, and desire to upgrade the house and use this fiber cement board as a lower cost alternative. The applicant has also provided examples of the existing siding and proposed fiber cement board alternatives for the Historic Review Board to consider, and they submitted that letter that I referenced as well. Would this be a good time to enter those into the record? Okay. So I've placed the samples up on the dais there, but I'm going to approach and just kind of show what we're talking about here and officially enter these into the record.
Yeah, just make sure if you want to grab your mic. I would probably better do it from the, yeah, that's fine.
So board members, this is the existing wooden lap siding, a sample of it. You can see it kind of V-grooves down into the channel. It's about 3/4 of an inch thick. The measurements are all provided in the staff report as well as this presentation, where I compare these side by side. When they lock together, there's about a 1 inch channel reveal over 6.5. The closest sample that I was able to sort of determine, the sample that got us closest is what I call sample B, which is an apparent 9 inch reveal with a 1 inch channel. The other styles were an 8 inch with a V groove and a 10 inch with a 1 inch channel as well. And the V groove provides no channel, it's just a texture element basically. And so I've called this is sample B in the presentation I'm about to give, as well as the staff report. And then, so these will be officially entered into the record, and you can take a look at these if you like and consider them as well. I've got the other samples as well upon request, if you'd like to take a look at those, including the corner boards. Okay, so given the circumstances of the situation, given the way that the Historic Review Board policy number 3 is written, staff is seeking direction from the board on the following condition here. I've kind of managed to hone it down and specify it a little bit, kind of draw a fence around what we're looking at here. The applicant shall replace the existing wood siding with fiber cement board option B that is 5/8 inches in thickness with 9 inches in reveal on a 1-inch channel to adequately replicate the existing wood siding. So we're seeking direction from you whether this condition of approval is adequate or whether we need to revise the findings and this condition of approval to something that you deem more appropriate that will not adversely impact the landmark but make the project viable. So are you okay with using fiber cement is question number 1. And if so, we believe that sample B is the closest approximation. If not, we'll want you to provide either revised findings for denial with additional direction to the applicant. So this is the basic vicinity of the landmark in question, marked with a purple star there. It's probably a little bit difficult to see on your iPads, but the nearest historic landmark, also in Rivercrest, is right there on the ridge. It's marked in red, about 800 feet or so to the northeast of the landmark. And then, of course, you've got the fringes of the McLaughlin neighborhood below with several landmarks well below there. But that's kind of the lay of the land. So according to the 1986 inventory form, no biographical information was found on R.S. Beattie. Somewhat altered, the house is significant for its age. The roof form has been altered and portions enclosed of the 1-story rear wing around 1910. Front porch was altered significantly around the same time, as well as the front door. The form shows that the surfacing materials are shiplap, corner boards, that the home is well set back from the road and above street grade in an area of mostly newer homes with no other landmarks in the immediate vicinity. So the existing siding is 3/4 inch thick with a 1/2 inch in the channel section of thickness, with wooden shiplap siding with a 6.5 inch reveal and a 1-inch channel height. They've detected lead paint in deteriorating condition. The sample B is 5/8 inch thick with a 9-inch reveal and 1-inch lateral channel Hardy Artisan square channel fiber cement siding. It's 2.5 inches more reveal than existing, but that 1-inch channel closely approximates the texture of the existing siding, and most closely given taking everything into account, what they're replacing. This is an image of the two put side by side, showing the circumstances there, how they overlap and interlock, the nature of the kind of V-groove down to the channel on the existing, and the kind of 90-degree cut on the proposed. And then I've got an example of the corner boards as well, but they are 3.5, just under 3.5, 3 3/8 inches in width by 1 inch thick. Also the fiber cement material. And so that brings us back to the condition of approval that we're seeking direction on. Given the applicant's circumstances and the various samples provided, staff is seeking direction from you on the appropriate findings. And your options are to approve HR 2517 with either affirming or revising the findings and conditions, denying and providing further direction to staff and the applicant are continuing to a date certain of next month.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any questions of staff?
Yeah, I would like, I think we all have some history in this stuff. In rebuilding a house that we have that's, was built in the 1880s, it had the same type of wood deal, and I made an add-on to it. And I found cedar, pre-prime cedar that came in very, very close. And it was, price-wise, it was good. However, before I got into that, I ended up building an outbuilding where I tore down an old garage and I put up hardy cement siding on that outbuilding. And it has a lap on it. It's a little thinner, but it matches up with the historic shiplap siding as we see here better than this does. It had, in my opinion. And it's a little thinner, but it creates the same lap here, and it's direct from Hardy. And price-wise, when I was doing it, I assessed it and I said, wow, this is a good deal. And, but it's on a separate building and it didn't have any impact on basically the historic building. But on the historic building, to make it all look right, I went with that pre-primed cedar that looks just like this. It's within very little difference. And it was cost-wise, it was okay. But the key to it was it matched. And I didn't have to change out all the rest of the siding on the building. So that's an example of just my history. And as far as I'm concerned, the type of siding that I put on my outbuilding out there, where I've got my trailer parked, you can't tell it from a distance whether or not it's this or Hardy.
Okay. Any questions, staff?
I just have one question. I have no problem with hardy board as a replacement material. I think it's appropriate in most cases, and sometimes a better material in terms of longevity, especially in a wet climate. But the thickness of the two, or I guess I shouldn't say, yeah, the thickness, not the width. Is that going to, do we know if that's going to impact the trim around the windows or the trim around anything else? Because there is a variance between the two, between the existing and the hardy board sample. Like, will that, do we know that yet?
We don't know because the applicant isn't here, but.
The difference is about 1/8 of an inch.
Yeah.
In thickness. The applicant hasn't flagged any concerns with that.
Okay. And I'm guessing like a hardy board person, like a consultant, has come out and spoken with them, had a consultation with them about that. Because I know those little bits add up, you know, sometimes when you have a project like this. So those little measurements.
I have a hard time speaking to what exactly what their scenario is with representatives, but they have supplied all of these samples in waves. So, so they have come to us and gone back to Hardy and gotten, you know, other options that.
So they're consulting with someone from the company. Okay.
Yes.
So on your end, if there's something you're worried about as a board member, as it relates to how hardy board interacts with the existing window trim, this is not approving any revisions to the window trim, this is just the siding.
Right.
So if there's any additional caveats you feel that's important, that can be added on to the condition.
Okay. Yep, that's my only concern, I guess, is the the small difference in measurement and how that might impact other features around the exterior of the home, but.
Yeah, that was kind of my concern too about the architectural pieces that you see in the photo up at the top, the little, what do they call that, up in the very top, the venting up there.
The vents and stuff like that, yeah.
All those architectural features, that shouldn't be affected, I would hope not by that as well. And I don't, you guys are the,
Well, yeah, I have a question then. So,
Experts.
and I never considered this because now you're saying there's possibly different consideration, but I would assume, and it's just an assumption, that if we're replacing the siding on the house, we're also replacing all the trim around the windows and the corner boards.
They have proposed to replace the corner boards. They haven't.
They didn't say anything about the trim.
Nothing about their window trim, just the
Okay.
corner boards and the siding.
Okay.
They might be leaving the window trim intact, pulling the siding and going back to it possibly.
Possibly.
The corner boards, I was a little surprised at the 3.5-inch selection, the 3.5-inch width, because normally you'd see it wider, but that particular house has
It's
narrower
got
trim
small
on
corner
it.
boards.
So that's replicating what was there. To Board Member Edgar's point, I'm not familiar with the product that he used, but I did go through this same process myself 5+ years ago when I built my home in Kanema. And then Hardy, at that time, the only option, you might say, with the channel siding is what you see there.
Yeah.
And it's a little wider. I called attention to that in my presentation to the HRB, and they were okay with it at that point in time. Mine, I'm not matching anything, it was all a new home, but I would have liked to have a little bit narrower, more, typical traditional, but it's just not available.
Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't say it's not available. There was one manufacturer at that point in time that did make it's a fly ash product. It's like fiber cement, but for all intents and purposes, the same thing. About half again more than Hardy. And the Hardy is a very expensive product. I'm not sure if the applicant has, has
I've always known
actually.
it to be more expensive than sometimes.
The
wood, but
Hardy
I don't
is
know the
more
price of wood right now.
expensive than this product in cedar. This is for.
Finger joint.
That would be very expensive. Yeah, finger joint, yep, pre-primed. And so at the time I built my house, 1x8 cedar, channel siding. The Hardy was probably about half again more than the
Right.
cedar. That varies over the time because the cedar market, of course, fluctuates a lot. But the Hardy is an expensive product, but as far as acceptability, I couldn't say it's not acceptable. I put it on my house.
Right.
So that's my
Right.
bias. But I mean, I think that generally speaking, that's
Yeah.
when they're trying to achieve what I was trying to achieve, and that's a very durable
Right, and
exterior.
as a composite
That's
material.
kind of about all they
it's-
have available to them.
Yeah, and as a composite material, I think it's very appropriate in preservation districts. I've seen it time and
Yeah.
time again and recommended time and time again, and
Yep.
in some of the COA appropriateness too, like they list out hardy board. I know in Louisville, when I worked in Louisville, Kentucky, it was, if you're going to replace it with hardy board. Just make sure that the width is similar. In kind is always preferable, I guess, but hardy board's a great material, and I always understood it to be more expensive than wood, but then I don't admittedly know the price of either right now, and I
Well,
know
yes
that
and
construction
no.
materials have gone up.
The typical Hardy lap siding is cheaper, and there's a significant price difference between the typical lap siding and the artisan product there. I mean, to the extent of when I did my house, the lap siding was about $8 a stick, and the artisan was $36 a stick. So
Oh, okay.
it's an expensive product.
Right, but it's a
Yeah.
good product too. I mean,
Yeah.
it's very durable.
So just, are we in questions or comment?
We're in questions.
Okay.
Comments too.
Once we get through the questions, we can have
Okay.
that discussion.
All right. I'll wait.
Okay. I have a question that, I couldn't really see when I was there, the angle, I guess, was the building behind the house. It appears that it's part of that property. I'm looking at the picture, that one, directly behind the house.
Small
Right.
The addition, or is it another
No, the
building?
single-story exterior building.
Yeah,
Oh, there
You
you
can see it better in the right-hand picture.
Is that that? Or
It's
is that?
Oh, is it? No.
Well, it doesn't look like it from the angle. That's my question.
Oh, it is.
God.
No, it's the same thing.
Oh, is
Because
it?
it's from, yeah, you're seeing the building
Oh,
to the
right.
right is that building.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're looking at it that way.
And is that on their property? Is that their property?
I don't believe so.
Oh, okay, because I was curious as to whether they were going to match that, to do that as well. It wasn't anywhere in the staff report, so. Okay, any other questions of staff at this time? All right, great, well, thank you very much. We don't have an applicant at the moment, so we'll bring it back up now for your comments.
So my biggest comment would be in the last 2026, 4 years, I've dealt with this 4 times. The product that's being described is the closest match that they currently have. And the Artisan Hardy product has a limited line now. And this product, the way that it's almost, I wish we had 2 samples of it so that we could latch it together
Yeah.
and really show how it works.
Of course, it latches
It does,
right
and
down
then
to
you can
that.
see
It's-
the female end on the bottom kind of matches up with that, male end on the top.
Yeah,
The only thing that we lose in this is that beveled reveal, and they just don't make that anymore. Exactly.
this, the Hardy is available with this edge beveled, so
So I haven't seen that, which is fine, which would be definitely the sample we'd want to go with.
yeah.
That being said, I think the costing difference is drastically different now because of the tariffs that have been placed on cedar.
Yeah,
Right.
and
I've been able to beat the price of 8-inch, 3/4-inch lap cedar with Hardy Artisan
You can.
okay,
every step of the way, every
Yeah.
time.
Okay.
The question comes to artisan cornering. And so if we were in a situation where the house had an artisan overlap corner, I would say we have an issue here. But with having corner boards on the house, it's dying into a flat surface.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the product becomes completely suitable.
yeah,
And so that's really the only concern that I would ever have is if
Yeah.
we were doing a beveled, 5/8 to 7/8 board with an artisan corner.
yeah,
That poses a problem. I don't want to see aluminum corners. I don't want to see corner flashing. I
Yep.
don't want to see that. But if we're going to do corner boards,
Yeah.
this product is so far superior in longevity and currently in cost. They're probably running about 15 to 20% less
Yeah.
than finger joint cedar. And not only that, but the finger joint cedar's coming in with what looks like quilted patchwork on it.
Yeah.
Where you've got these little sections on an 8-inch tall board, you might have a 4x6 section of a completely different grain pattern right in
Yep.
the middle of a board.
yeah,
And so you've got to either sand that back, prime it with high-grade prime and then paint, or have your installers, which again is the next part of this, pick through the pile and put everything up high on the house that doesn't conform
Yeah.
and only put the good boards at eye level.
Yeah.
None of that's going to occur or is cost effective.
yeah, right. Yeah, I agree, and you might say, the neighborhood value, the durability, a good coat of paint on this is gonna last much longer than so.
And to that point, I'm talking about houses in Dunthorpe that all were over $2 million.
Yeah,
So we're talking about a cost coefficient that just doesn't apply.
yeah, yeah. Yep. Yeah, this product, like I say, is available with a bevel edge and square on the bottom. And when you lock that down over, the lock keeps it from flapping out and it self-aligns at that point. So you always have that much reveal,
Yeah.
which is that's very typical.
And the cost of installation goes down with Hardy as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So are you suggesting that we ask them to get the one with the beveled edge on it?
Myself, I wouldn't put that burden on them. I think that's, what do you think?
I like that if the product exists, I like the idea of doing it, but I also
I do
agree
too.
that I wouldn't put
Yeah.
the burden onto this home to do that. I think that we've got a product that matches the expectation and is in line with what we're trying to accomplish with even having these rules and meetings. I feel like the homeowner has done due diligence to come up with a product that is going to be representative of the home the way that it was intended to look originally. And as the staff reported, from the time that the home was built until now, there's been significant modifications to
Yeah.
the structure and to the home and to the porches and the roof and so I think that the idea of putting more burden, and we've also heard from staff that they have come in waves of going back to the vendor to look
Yeah.
for more product.
Yeah.
I think putting another task onto them isn't the reason that we're here. However, if it were something that they decided to do, I would happily accept it. I just don't know that I'm willing to say you have to do that.
Yeah,
Right.
that's where I think they would be better served with the bevel because
Oh,
when it's
absolutely.
installed,
I agree.
when it's
Better
installed
product.
in a horizontal fashion, that's kind of a water catcher.
Yeah.
And that's why the bevel exists.
That's what I was thinking about,
Yeah.
the water and
Yeah.
and options over time.
If you're in an area like where I have a lot of trees,
Yep.
and I, sometimes, my wife, more concerned than I am, but that somebody gets stupid below me. And I would much rather have this on my house
Yeah,
than what I have.
yeah.
Well, and also it's an easier product to maintain in terms of, we never recommend anyone take like a pressure washer to their wood or their brick or their stone, But it's, and I'm not recommending taking a pressure washer to this either, but it's easier to clean, I think, if something does settle in
Yep.
in the gap there.
Yep.
It's tough because you're looking at something that, you're looking at 100+ year product sometimes. The manufacturer's gonna give 20 years, I think, to cedar. And Hardy gives, I think, 50 years.
Yeah.
I think there's a 30-year hard, estimate on it, and then there's a 50-year contract on it. I think the 30 years transferable, 50 years is, hey, this is gonna last 50 years. It's tough to say that the siding's not gonna last more than 20 years when we consistently and constantly see siding that's 100 to 150 years old that's in good shape.
Yeah.
But also cement's gonna be in really good shape.
Okay, any other comments?
I don't have any, I just like the idea of having a beveled edge as a suggestion for them to look at it. But as far as I'm concerned, it's a quality product. And it doesn't alter the historic nature of the house negatively.
So it sounds to me like we're okay with the Hardy board and I don't know, I'm trying to figure out a way to make that into some direction. You've got it?
Got it.
I'm on that.
Okay.
I wanted to check into on the 1/8 inch difference in thickness trim question as well, because that was a question that was brought up. But what I've written so far with the beveled edge is the same condition of approval as existing here, but with an addendum that the board encourages but does not require the same product with a beveled edge for the channel if the product is available.
Sounds great.
And there was concern about the windows and the architectural pieces
You
is,
can say that revisions to, or like, this approval does not include replacement of,
Replacement of window trim
Yeah.
requires further review?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say replacement or
Could it be
Well,
that the existing window trim to be retained or replaced in kind?
yeah, and that replaced in kind is allowed on a staff level.
Okay. My theory on that
Okay,
window
I agree
trim
with
issue, with being an 1/8 difference, is that you're going to have a bead of OMSI quad running down the side.
I was
It's going to
say,
cover that.
I feel
edge.
better about the new product at least being thinner, because it doesn't mean that you're going to cover up any, because it looks like there's a pretty big, lip on these, on the window trim and things like that, and that's pretty character defining. But it's thinner, so the only concern, I guess, there being, is there going to be a reveal that requires any infill or paint or, whatever they need?
I don't
Is that,
think
can
so.
you caulk the difference, or?
Well, yeah, so what's going to happen is when you take the siding off, it's going to be further back where the siding would have previously been caulked in, and the finish could possibly be affected by that. But the reality is that you're going to get a fatter bead of caulking on there, and it's going to cover all of that. So I just don't see it being an issue.
Okay, so one question for the board too, is there a sheathing material that goes underneath the hardy? Because I've not seen that process applied.
It depends.
Historically, the houses did not have any sheeting on them. That was just shiplap
Right.
nailed straight to the 2x4s.
But I think hardy does have a
And
sheet.
so,
Yeah.
if, when they take this off, they take the old stuff off, how they go about insulating
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It maybe
And,
could make up the difference with the
and,
sheathing.
and what they do there is another trick that requires some thinking, because this is the time to be smart.
It's going to
Not,
be,
and do
yeah.
what you can do to, particularly to reduce heat loss and seal it up. So getting it all sealed up and as best as possible is part of this thing. And it's above the just changing out the
is.
siding.
Likely no siding contractor is going to, the siding contractor is going to replace what's there with the new product. To go and put in some kind of fir trim and then put in a rain guard and a moisture wick is going to be an extended project that is outside the purview of this.
Yep.
And from what we've seen and the language that's been provided by the homeowner, I highly doubt that extra step has been considered or included. So I would expect that, and that might be something to consider, but I would expect that the new material is being applied in exactly an identical way that the old material was. With new house wrap.
Right, I'm wondering though if
They're
that,
gonna-
wrap.
They're going to put new house wrap on, but they likely will not fur it out and put in a membrane.
yeah, I'm just wondering if, that sheathing or whatever they decide to do, a rain guard or whatever the appropriate sheathing material is, will maybe make up a little bit more of that 1/8 inch gap too, and meet us more where the historic
It would
material
be
is at.
significantly more.
More?
It would be,
Yeah,
you'd be
okay.
at least 1/4 to 3/8 inches further out,
Oh, okay.
minus an eighth.
So yeah, the trim then maybe is a concern, so however we can put that language in.
I think the verbiage here, existing window trim shall be retained or replaced in kind, I think probably covers if they need to replace it, those are their instructions. If they don't need to replace it, it's a moot point.
Yeah. There's one possible caveat to Board Member Egger's point. If it's single constructed and there's no subsheeting under there, and I would guess that there probably is another layer of diagonal shiplap in there, but there's no guarantee. but they've got a different animal on their hands if they pull that off to just bare studs. So in that case, a siding contractor is going to say, we need to just put our siding over top of that, which is okay, but then that does impact window trim for reveals. Then that means that window trim, so there could potentially be some language put in findings so they don't have to come back to this. You know, if a decision is made that the new siding needs to be applied over the existing siding, then window trim needs to be restored with the same reveal or something like that. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Or maybe the hardy board that they select is less thick or
It
something.
would have to be window trim treatment.
I
Just basic
I
construction
would guess that
purposes.
they're probably going to use a window trim, so you would probably have a scenario where the window trim pops off, 3/4 filler strips, and it goes back on
Got it, okay.
over that, and then you would probably use new material. So I guess I don't know if it's pertinent to try to weave that somehow into a condition of approval, but is it, do you
So
think you can?
right now, we have window trim shall be retained or replaced in kind. Is there additional information you want to add to that
With the
sentence?
existing reveals, and maybe if the new
Existing
siding
reveals
needs to overlay
shall
the
be retained.
existing window trim would be modified to maintain the same reveals.
Something,
Reveal
you have to
depth,
say
I would say, or
window.
reveal, something to that, reveal depth or something.
To me, one of the things also is the concern, if we get the opinion from reading the letter that she is fighting cancer and you know, who knows where the money, when you're in that battle, what you do. But anyway, I have a degree of concern that you're opening up a can of worms, and I would hate to see someone get drowned in the worms in underestimating all of the dominoes that can possibly fall.
Yeah.
And I went through a lot of dominoes, so
Well, unfortunately, we don't get to control that.
Yeah.
You know, all we get to control is.
We just hope that they do their due
Exactly.
diligence.
The remodel contractor, we don't know what's behind the wall.
So right now, there was a lot of comment. Is there any direction to amending that last sentence about window trim retained or replaced in kind?
The only thing if they run into a surprise, that is a significant surprise, I would love to them have an ability to come back to us if there is the need without a penalty.
The problem is if you are approving it tonight, they'd have to renotice it, and I don't think they want it continued.
No.
So I think the goal is providing enough clarity in the conditions that they know what they can do and what staff can approve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is, the way it is now, is that decisive enough? And does it say that we're not going to change the windows, or if we do, it has to be a like? And does like mean it has to be the same, all the same dimensions and
What-
reveals?
I've written this potential sentence as well. If the replacement siding is installed over the existing siding, replacement window trim shall show the same reveal specifications as existing.
Yeah.
Okay.
That works.
I like that.
Yeah.
Material as well.
Yep.
Material, yeah, material.
Same
and-
reveal specifications and material as existing.
I like that.
Because as it stands, the house, I mean, as an architectural historian, I'm looking at it, and the character defining features are the windows, the trim, and the porch supports. And that's about it right now, you know? So the trim is, I think, really important. But yeah, that sounds great, what you wrote. I think it's clear.
Yep.
Right?
I agree.
Yep, okay. Any other comments? If none, I'm open for a motion.
I move to approve with amendments as written.
I second.
We So you want to approve HR 25-00017 with amendments as written.
Yeah.
And we have a second. Julia? Okay, call roll.
All right,
please.
Board Member Green,
Aye.
Board Member Lawrence,
Aye.
Vice Chair Fulkerson,
Aye.
Board Member Edgar,
Aye.
Chair Powell.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, well, that's what you get for asking us for our opinion.
Thank you.
So, not that, you know, every application is different and there's different significance to resources, but as, you know, Jude and Melissa, talk to folks about citing, maybe any additional direction about when you think, because all Hardy Board needs to come to the Historic Review Board, but maybe things that we should pass on to applicants, you know, here's something that you should be thinking about when you present to the board related to your, you know, revised material. I kind of heard, really, you know, we've talked about windows, we talked about, you know, how significant is the siding to the significance of the house, how is it related to corner boards, or do you know, or you have beveled edges? Are there other things that you can pass on to staff to provide more context of when you think there'd be additional kind of concerns about using a cement board siding when it comes to replacement?
For me, the only question, because the product changes so often, it's going to be hard to come up with something that would help staff make a definitive decision. But the corner board thing is a big deal, especially as we move into alternative sidings, whether they're cement, hardy, or whatever is coming tomorrow, is that the ability to do the traditional cedar lap changes significantly. So knowing that, it's far more feasible historically and visually to see it work with a corner board than it would otherwise. And that's really the only thing that I can think of that changes that.
I think you have to differentiate between a remodel of a historic like this and building something new in there. And it's, when you do it new, you don't have any of the problems. You just,
Because even new, they're using the 1/4-inch hardy and then putting aluminum caps on the end.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just god awful. And it's been god awful for the last 60 years.
Yeah.
So,
That wouldn't really have a historic appearance. In particular, in this instance, they are suggesting using the 5/4 material, which is 1 inch thick, which tells me that they're planning to apply the corner boards and butt the siding to it, which leaves about a 1/4 inch reveal, which may be what's going on the existing house. You can't tell. I looked it over. There's downspouts on every corner or HVAC trim on every corner, and you just can't see. That's a little bit unusual. More commonly, you would see a 1x5 or 1x6 corner board overlaid the siding in that instance. That would be much more typical. But I don't think, in my mind, obviously, it wouldn't be appropriate to say you need to do this when the existing house had that. They're essentially trying to duplicate what the existing house had, even though it's not particularly typical. So
Yeah, existing
it
doesn't always mean original.
makes each one kind of unique, really, because of, you know, generally speaking, I would say a house like this would have 5 or 6 inch corner boards overlaid, but they didn't. So
Yeah.
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 So, I mean, my only concern would be if you've got an applicant who's coming in with a smaller, thinner, you know, plank and to go to from a 3-inch or whatever into a 9-inch.
Yeah.
That would be a concern.
The width certainly, depending on the style of the home, needs to be historically appropriate. I know that to be like a very general, you know, but it sounds like, you know, you already knew that too. The samples were very similar in size and yeah, because those vary based on build dates and obviously you wouldn't want to put a board like this on a Victorian home, let's say, that was a little earlier and has the thinner slatting and so, yeah, I don't know that there is a one size fits all
I don't think so.
No, it's tough.
when it comes to it, but,
Anecdotally, I just saw a house in Irvington with an 11-inch reveal,
oh my gosh.
and instead of replacing it with a cedar product, they ripped plywood down and replaced sections with football plywood. And we looked at it and went, what? What are you doing?
All right, so, I mean, it sounds like it's context sensitive and, again, requires review by the board, which is
Yeah.
what the policy says now.
The
Well,
only
yeah, I mean,
example that I
there's
can
a-
maybe give is when you have a collection of homes that are similar in style, which we do sometimes in the neighborhoods, you might be able to adopt a little bit more of a one-size-fits-all approach according to the style. So you could have like a list of styles and then maybe a suggested size boarding for each style. I've seen that done before.
Yeah.
And that's kind of as close as streamlined, I think, as you can get.
Well, right now, unless you are doing a like-for-like replacement, it goes in front of the board. And, maybe over time, if it makes sense to revise that HRB policy, that's fine, but I think it only happens every once in a while, so I think, and it is not a huge financial burden to come in front of the board, so we've kind of, had this as an option to do a context-sensitive review.
The policy is written too in such a way that staff has kind of learned to articulate that, what you propose, the existing look, the existing reveal, the existing texture and channel and all of that is what you're going for. So try to get as close to that as possible.
Right.
And then just saying that, the board will consider reasonable, alternatives. And I think that
Right.
gives people enough of a marching order there to kind of,
Right.
move to the next step in absence of the ability to be more specific.
Right, and I mean, obviously, in-kind replacement is preferred, but when that's not possible, yeah, it's great to have an alternative solution there, so.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks very much, Jude. Yep. Appreciate it. All right, moving on. Discussion, compatible change.
All right, so in January, the board met and looked at kind of the final revisions to our HRB policy 13 for new small dwellings, looked at the dormers, specifically allowing dormers on both sides, allowing it up to the ridge line, and then kind of having that 1 foot in and then setback on the edge. So staff made those changes to what you see attached, as well as a reduction in the side window transparency down to 20%, I believe, yeah. And so those were added on from January. And really tonight is just to accept the changes as directed by staff. The board member, Chair Powell and Vice Chair Fulkerson will be actually presenting this in front of the City Commission tomorrow at the 6 p.m. work session. And the formal request is for this to move forward through the legislative process, which means when you have a legislative file, that's a land use file, we notice anybody who is affected by that. So that would be all property owners in both districts and then landmarks. And I think 300 feet around each landmark. So there'll be a group of people who will get the notice for that. And then they'll go through planning commission hearings to make those code changes. And then the HRB policy is not codified, but when there's changes to HRB policies, we bring them up to the City Commission and they adopt it by resolution. So basically the City Commission acknowledges the new HRB policy, but it's not a codified code.
And you'll be there tomorrow too, right?
And I will be there tomorrow.
Okay.
So really the request of the City Commission is share the work that's been done to date. The HRB went to them in August 2025, requested, here's the policy document. We worked with Kristen Miner on, these are our recommended suggestions. Can we move forward with red line code and work on the HRB policies? And the City Commission said, move forward on that. And so really we're saying, since we last met with you, this is what we've done. Here's our recommended revisions. We'd like to move forward with legislative hearings. Even though the Planning Commission approves it, what we can do is I do plan on having, you know, a work session sometime through the legislative process just to make sure there's no additional like tweaks you want to do, but we'll probably have that as a work session through the legislative file. And we often do that, like we might notice the file for a certain planning commission meeting, but ahead of time we might hold a work session, but we kind of within the formal legislative process.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, let's see. We'll be there tomorrow. Any other communications?
Actually, if we could have a formal vote that
Oh,
that
sure.
the Historic Review Board is formally forwarding their work to the City Commission and requesting direction to start the legislative file, that can be kind of your motion, and then that's what we can share tomorrow.
Okay. Anyone want to tackle that one as a motion?
I didn't quite catch that.
That would be that you're formally recommending these revisions and requesting the City Commission allow it to move forward through the legislative adoption process.
Okay, quick question about that. Is this in reference to basically everything that we're looking at here?
So that would be the HRB policy 7, 13, and the red line code.
Oh, okay, yeah, the policy 7 and 13, yeah.
And the red line code, kind of as the package.
Yeah, now, in the package, I'm thinking of the sample plans that we.
Oh, and I did not include that in
Okay,
the City
good.
Commission package.
Because
This
I
was
think
just-
more is
Yeah.
in that than would want to be published.
Yeah, and so that is still kind of, I kept that public comment kind of with you tonight, but if you look at the City Commission work session agenda, you'll see I took that out. So it's really just, I even took, you know, I attached just the final drafts.
Okay.
And then the policy memo that the HRB adopted last summer as a
Yeah.
background document.
Because if there's a published document, then I think it should be minimized to just a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what the board can also do is after this is adopted, you can work on like educational information that is not codified but can help folks
Okay.
with implementation. We can do that after it's adopted. It doesn't have, this is really either things that are codified or the HRB policy, but if there's educational documents the board wants to create to help people, you know, implement it, that can be done outside of the
Got it,
legislative
got it.
process.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea too.
One other quick question, and with regard to 13, and the roof section, the comment about skylights, it says flush-mounted skylights on a non-primary elevation are allowed. I'm just wondering if that's the term that wants to be used, because that's, you don't really see much in the way of flush-mounted skylights anymore. So I wonder if it should be either flush mount or curb mount skylights. I mean, for instance, like a Velux roof mount skylight basically sticks up about 4 inches. It mounts on the roof, but it has a flashing kit and flashing. So the notion of flush mounted skylights is kind of a misnomer. I don't want to, should we?
My recommendation is hold that off till the HRB work session that we'll have right before the hearings.
All that cleanup can be done.
Because what I don't want to do is then I'd have to bring that on to the City Commission tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, it's
Don't want to clutter it up.
three, that's really specific. I think
Okay.
our goal is the big picture.
Got it.
But hold that thought.
Yep.
And then when we get to understand the legislative timeline and where we put that work session, and then that package will go in front of
Got
the
it.
Planning Commission.
Got it.
I do have a email list of folks that were involved in the survey last year, and I will, based on what happens tomorrow, I'll let everybody on that email list, on the BCC email, let them know that we're moving forward, hopefully. So for Chair Powell and McLaughlin, look for that email, and a little bit from me, just letting people know kind of what the next steps are on this approval process.
Great, that'd be great.
So are you looking for separate motions for policy
No.
13?
I think it's just the package, the compatible change
Yep.
package.
So I would move to then submit the package as compiled to the City Commission for approval.
For their review.
And to move, we want to add the legislative piece.
Yeah, and move forward with the legislative adoption process.
Okay.
Okay, and I second that motion.
All right, Board Member Egger,
Yes.
Board Member Green,
Aye.
Board Member Lawrence,
Aye.
Vice Chair Fulkerson,
Aye.
Chair Powell.
Aye.
Well, thank you all. This was almost 2 years worth of work, so I appreciate all your, you just really had I thought you had a key eye on the balanced approach, and I really am thankful for all your hard work on it.
Well, thank you
Thankful for all of your hard work on it.
Thank you for all you do.
Yes.
And all the work that you put into it and the consultant and all that.
I've got a quick question for you.
As long as it doesn't change this.
Does not.
Just kidding.
Who's going to be present at the work session tomorrow?
Both Julia and Tim. We can't have three,
Cannot have three.
because
Okay.
then that would be a
And-
meeting.
Okay, and then there's no issue with three at the regular meeting?
I'm going to be at the meeting later.
Exactly, that's what I'm asking you. So,
The 7 o'clock.
is there a problem at the 7 o'clock meeting if there happens to be four of us there?
Are you to present or?
No, just as citizen
I'm good.
involvement?
Okay.
At large.
Yep.
They're going to be in the audience for the 7 o'clock meeting.
Oh, yeah, yeah. If you're just in the audience and you're not participating together, that's not a quorum, but
Okay.
the moment you talk to each other or talk together, you are in a quorum.
You're not allowed to
Sit on
say
opposite
So you can only talk about the weather.
Yeah.
That's the whole idea, so at 7 o'clock, they'll do a little presentation to the city commission about the historic review boards last year. Really only Chair Powell will come up with myself, and you can, wave, but if they brought all you up and you talked, then it's suddenly a noticed meeting, so we can't do that.
What if we're all at the same gas station and?
Then talk about the weather. Well, that's just it, you could all go to a conference together. You could all be at something together, but as long as you don't talk about historic review board business or speaking as a member of the board, and really not talk about city business, that's not really a meeting, but the moment you start talking about qualitative comments related to preservation or the board, or not just even land use files, but just, the concept of what this board is, which is preservation, and how you would approach it, that conversation suddenly becomes a public meeting.
Okay.
Great.
But your favorite pizza topping is not a public meeting.
Okay. And would you like to bring up Ruth Powers one more time?
Yes,
for all
just
of
to
us?
remind everybody, the Ruth Powers Award is given every May for Preservation Month. It'll be given out the second City Commission meeting in May, so it's the third Wednesday in May. So we generally like to have consensus by the end of April, so I will send out an email to board members, BCC, where I request recommendations, and I will provide a deadline. I'll receive those and then I'll send them out. And almost always there's usually a pretty easy general consensus, but now the award is given to people or projects that best show preservation principles. And so those can be of an historic resource, a non-historic resource. It could be new construction. It could be a person who has just spent lots of time advocating for preservation, or maybe a preservation professional in the neighborhood. And those have all been given in the past. And people have asked, does it have to be done within this calendar year? No, but they should be recent projects. And you can define what you think recent is.
Great. Any comments from the board?
The only other thing, I guess, just a reminder, is we all have to fill out our government ethics thing by mid-April, so on your emails. Yeah. So,
Thanks, I was going to ask that.
And I'm going to bring in some additional examples of this stuff so that you have, this is like no man's land, and maybe it opens up thought.
Yeah, actually, we can, next meeting, under communications, that's a great kind of show and tell. We can do that during communications.
Okay, anything else? If not, we are adjourned.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.